Hey everyone, Darcinova here. I'm gonna do something a little different. It's gonna be kind of a book haul slash announcement slash Q&A. So this is gonna be a little bit of everything in this video. So for those who are eager to hear to hear my answers to your questions, well, you finally have it. For those few people who did, oh well, doing a Q&A is something I haven't done before. A lot of them is by the same person, but who am I to talk? According to Jeremy and everyone in the Legends podcast, I'm Darth Riddler. So I have no room to talk about asking complicated questions. So let's get the show on the road. River of Black Lights. Ah, shit. Fucking crap. I hate this. Okay. Oh my god. I'm so sorry, people. Anyway, I'm using my brother's cell phone to read these questions because I don't. Having a computer kind of sucks. You're not having one, so let's just. Don't worry about the response, dude. It's just something I did because I don't feel like fiddle around with it. River of Black Light asks if Disney finally admits that they have no plans to recontinue the EU, will you just move on to something else? What do you think that will be? Well, to answer your question, man, I don't know. I'm actually already prepared for Disney possibly not, continuing the Star Wars expanded universe. I'll just move on. I'll check out other expanded universes. I'm doing Terminator and Star Trek currently, and maybe I'll check out the other works that I have yet to experience. I don't know. I'll get to that row when I get to it. It's not really the question that you were hoping for. I'm sorry, but it's the most honest answer I could possibly give you. His second question: have you ever made peace with the fact that the EU and all of Star Wars might be lost forever? Or do you think eventually you will make peace with Disney Wars and give into it for curiosity's sake? Honestly, I read some of the new canon and watched The Force Awakens. I hated it. Honestly, I would rather burn every single Star Wars book and comic I actually own than check out Disney canon again because it's fucking shitty. I don't really have any interest. I'm sorry, but that's just my answer. Knowing Disney's desperation to infest the Star Wars universe with their characters, which is how would you react to EU being recontinued, but at that point on, Disney war characters would be included in those new legend stories as a way of quasi psycho connecting the classic EU to Disney canon, kind of like Disney saying, "See, our characters were also in the previous non-canon EU, so their appearance in the canon materials is void. Now they have to be accepted as authentic Star Wars characters." Would you be okay with that, or would you say no way? Honestly, if they really wanted to be creative, even though I would rather not this happen, they could possibly, it's stupid, but do a crossover between the new canon and Legends. Just as a way to make it seem like that Legends and the new canon are both canon, but they're both part of separate universes. So it'd be a separate timeline to prove that multiverses do exist in the Star Wars universe. But if they don't go that route, fuck no. I don't want that Mary Sue Ray or Kyle Ren anywhere near Legends because honestly, I hate those characters so much. Unless they go with the idea of maybe doing a Marvel and crossover along with DC where they actually, go to those universes. Or honestly, no, I don't want that to happen. Now, his fourth question: do you really think that Lucasfilm was truly moved by the billboard that went up? Or do you think that behind closed door they just saw it as another Wisp and Hush Jones? Oh no, not those guys again. Haven't they gotten the hint by now? Geez, moment. Honestly, I don't know. I can't answer for them. I do think a Papagato is an asshole. Honestly, Lin and Shi, I can't. answer him. I mean, I know we talked about this, but I don't think what we heard of Wen Lingqi at that video was his true feelings. I think he was just giving the interviewer, what he wanted to hear. Personally, that's my opinion about the matter. I'm probably wrong, but I just want to try to be at least somewhat optimistic because I don't want to believe the person that that helped preserve the Star Wars universe for decades to simply want to throw away his life's work on a whim. That just seems something fishy about that. Honestly, until I see him do the shit that Papa Gatto does on Twitter, I'm not gonna believe that. Where they moved, I don't know. Honestly, I think it's gonna take a lot more to get them to actually really think about it. Honestly, I think they're taking us a little bit more seriously now because we're actually going in the outside world, not just the internet. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, this question was asked DeWatt Wilkins, though. Of course, all these questions were, but I'm going to answer it. What is your take on Timothy Zahn basically telling EU fans who are trying to bring back the classic universe just to give up, accept that what Disney's doing and move on? Honestly, regarding Zahn, I don't care what he says, me personally, because I'm going to fight for the expanded universe for as long as I can. And honestly, the thing you got to understand about these authors, they're not as big fans as we would be. I'm pretty sure there are fans that, some of these authors are real Star Wars fans, but he's not as into it as we are. Not to mention, Timothy Zahn didn't really, he didn't like what Star Wars did to his characters, later in the timeline. He didn't like the way Legacy of the Force killing off Mora without telling him. Timothy Zahn didn't really like the eras of Star Wars after New Republic. So maybe by that point, he just doesn't care. Honestly, just because, an author who made probably the Thrawn trilogy said this doesn't give him any more leverage. It doesn't mean he's more right than anyone else. Besides, Zahn's not likely going to write for the new canon, the kind of person he is. So I don't care what Timothy Zahn says. In my opinion, it's irrelevant. Now, for another person, if I pronounce your name wrong, I am so sorry. I am awful with names. Ben Jeremy 87 asks for his two questions. First being, my God, not this shit again. What are your top 5 favorite Star Wars video games? Well, if you've watched the Legends podcast, you already know 2 of them. But if you haven't, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the first one. I'm going to get into more detail why when I review the game. Because if you've read the Tales of the Jedi comic books, it connects with those. It is probably one of the best, pieces of evidence to support continuity between the Star Wars expanded universe. Hell, reading New Jedi Order, what I'm currently doing, it even references the Yuuzhan Vong. And that's just crazy. And it connects like a lot of that stuff from that period, like Exar Kun, Nomi Stormrider. It's just because it takes place so close right after those events. And not to mention, it was just a great game in general. I mean, it had an impact on gaming, honestly. I mean, it was one of the best experiences regarding, being involved in the plot and self-inserting your character. You have more dialogue options. It's far more freedom regarding the way you customize your character than you do currently because less and less options are given to you in current games. Not to mention, it was back at the time where BioWare actually made good games and wasn't owned by EA. KOTOR 1 is my favorite Star Wars game of all time. Honestly, the story was great. Honestly, I would not want a remake. And that remake that's currently being made, I don't give a shit about it. Honestly. Also, my second favorite Star Wars game is Knights of the Old Republic 2. I would like this more than the first one had it not been for the fact that the version that I played you know, wasn't completed because unfortunately I don't have a PC, a good enough PC to play KOTOR 2. And in my opinion, KOTOR 2 in a lot of ways is better than KOTOR 1, but I'm doing this based on the game experience in general, not just the story. The story aspect, I think it was far better than the first one. But it's also it even shows how much continuity there is with the EU because it also references various other stuff in the Tales of the Jedi comics and in the first Knights of the Old Republic game. It's unfortunate that Drew Carkinson completely shits on not KOTOR 2, which really fucking pisses me off, honestly. But I'll get to that when I review Revan. KOTOR 2 is probably one of my favorite games of all time. It is a great game. Not only is it better than the first one in terms of gameplay, the story. Honestly, I thought the Exile was a much better character than Revan. I'm probably going to get killed by a bunch of Revan fanboys by saying that. But it's just, it also gave you an interesting view on the Jedi and the Sith, which is not something that you get that much with the expanded universe. I thought Kreia was such a great character. But I'm not going to get into too much detail because otherwise there'd be no point in me talking about it because I can talk about the Knights of the Old Republic 2 for almost 20 minutes and why that game is so good. Now for the third game that's one of my favorite Star Wars games, Shadows of the Empire. Not only was the novel great, the game was for its time was pretty fun. It was one of the first Star Wars games, that come out of the expanded universe, even though there's games that came out before that one. But it's just that it showed that Star Wars was more than just a movie franchise. Not to mention, it was a multimedia. It had, some comic, a novel. It was one of the best Star Wars movies that never got made. It would have made a great movie, but unfortunately, it never got made. My fourth favorite Star Wars game is Star Wars Rogue Leader. This is probably the best flight controls we've ever had in a Star Wars game. Yeah, it felt so fluid, and the graphics look really good, even today. Believe it or not, that game was rushed when it was released. It didn't even have a year development cycle, and they managed to make one of the best looking games for that generation. It was fun flying an X-Wing, a TIE fighter, and it was so great. It was also the first time we actually had a real experience through the Death Star trench and the Death Star 2. It was just amazing. The game was probably one of the best Star Wars games ever made, and it will never be topped. And the first Rogue Squadron for the N64 was also a good game too. I mean, it was such a good game, honestly. The storyline was interesting. I feel like it should have been a novel instead of a game because it was very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised, if the game took place sometime after Return of the Jedi. I don't know. It's not really specified. But it was just really good, honestly. One of the best Star Wars games to ever be released. My honorable mention for another good Star Wars game would probably be, let's see, I can't think of one. Honestly, the Force Unleashed games, I guess, are all right, but I'll get to that when I talk about that. I hope that answers your question regarding favorite Star Wars games. Okay, now to answer your second question. Goddamn this phone. So, okay. If the Star Wars were to cross over with any other story universe, movies, TV, comics, etc., what would be your dream crossover? I got one that'd be really epic. Why not Star Wars? Have an epic matchup with the Yuuzhan Vong with the Reapers from Mass Effect versus the Borg. Do you imagine how fucking crazy that would be? The entire universe would fucking be destroyed. There'd be no life left. It's fucking crazy. Though I think the Borg would actually eventually come on top. It would be an epic freaking crossover. The storyline would be great. It's shit. That's not as I hope that's the question you were asking. I'm sorry I couldn't answer it the way You wanted it. Now, let's look at there may be more questions in that one video that I did. No, I don't want to hear that. All right, let's see if there's any more questions. It's unfortunate. I guess I'm at the end of the rope, am I? I'm sorry. Well, I guess that's it for the questions. I hope I answered the questions to your satisfaction. I did it the best way I could. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough material for a whole video. So, yeah. I'm going to do another announcement for another Q&A, but this time I'm actually going to give 2 months in advance this time so we can get more questions. Maybe one, I don't know. So, I'm pretty much done with my questions. Now to get to my haul, at least the haul portion of the video, because that's what you guys like to watch these for. A very rare hardcover. They're all our hardcovers. Young Jedi Knights, The Shadow, The Rise of the Shadow Academy. I have these already in paperback, but I'm a fucking lover for hardcovers. And I just had to have it. It's just too bad I can't get the third book because it's like $40 fucking dollars. This was really freaking cheap. The Dark Nest trilogy in hardcover. All I need is Revelation, and I have the entire, and maybe Millennium Falcon and Crucible, and I have the entire Legacy era in novel form in hardcover, with the exception of a few other ones. Truce of Bakura in hardcover. This is one of the books I did announce I would review at the beginning of the year. It's going to get reviewed in time. Honestly, don't you find this cover a lot better than the paperback version? Just regardless, whether the Legends label or non-Legends label, because I think it is much better. The Countership of Princess Leia. I have this in paperback, but I wanted it in hardcover. I may be a little greedy, maybe getting the same books twice, but I am a fucking lover for hardcovers, and hardcovers are just more durable and they're easier to read than paperbacks. But anyway, now for my announcements. This is going to be reviews that are going to be reviewed this month. I know I keep announcing reviews. I never fucking do them, but I'm going to do them by the end of this month. Comics are easier to review. Power Rangers issue 4 will be one of my reviews. I might actually wait for issue 5 actually when it comes out before I review it, so that's not guaranteed. DC Rebirth. This is going to get reviewed tomorrow because I feel like I need to talk about DC Rebirth because I really love it so far. Green Lantern, I'm probably not going to review it until I get issue 3. So, yes. How I'm going to structure DC Rebirth, honestly, I'm probably going to explain this. I'm not going to do first impression because I don't want to do that for every comic. This is going to be episode 1 of my DC Rebirth series. So, in general, I'm going to review individual books. I don't want to copy Jeremy at Chainsaw Productions and just do a comic book throwdown because to me that's not cool. I don't want to copy him. I want to be different. So you probably are going to get these more frequently than my Star Wars reviews. Honestly. Other books. Feast of Souls. I announced this earlier this year. I said I would review this in freaking February. Now it's July. I'm currently listening to the audiobook, so just to refresh what happens in this. I love this book. I'll tell you why I thought it was so good, but I'm not going to give out way too much. A comic for Star Wars. I'm going to review this. I'm probably going to review this before I review the novels. Corin Voss, Jedi in Darkness. I'm going to review all the stuff that's in here. This is going to be a longer than usual review. This review is probably going to likely be like at least 20 minutes because there's a lot of content to talk about here. And I feel like when it comes to my videos, unless there's a lot to talk about, I prefer to keep it short. Rogue Squadron. For the past few podcasts I think it's the last one. Hopefully I get this done before I'm on the next Legends podcast. New Jedi Order. Of course, you knew that I'm going to review this. It might come out, do it before Rogue Squadron. Whatever one I finish first. Terminator Infiltrator. You're going to get this sometime at the end of the month. And that's pretty much my announcements. So, everyone, thank you for your time. Sorry for this. I'm not sorry for this long video. I mean, I don't do long videos that often. Anyway, may the Force be with you, and have a nice day, everyone. Peace out.